Dyeing the Chicago River green. For over 40 years, the Chicago journeyman plumbers turned the Chicago River green for the St. Patrick's Day celebration. One would ask, how is this different from the rest of the year when the river is always a murky shade of green? But the difference is both significant and breathtaking because the color green is identical to the greens of Ireland, from where it got its name, the Emerald Isle. If you were watching this for the first time, you'd think, is this a mistake or a bad joke? You see, the dye is orange and its initial color on the surface of the river is orange, and you'd think to yourself, who would do something like this? But after a moment or two, you then see the true color magically appear. Two miracles happened that day. The first is the river turns a perfect shade of green, something that many other cities have tried but have not been successful at doing. The second is that by starting with the color orange, it gives the impression that the river will become orange, only to convert the river to that true Irish green. But what's the formula for the dye? Just like the recipe for Coke, it's a closely guarded secret. But seriously, the formula has been thoroughly tested by independent chemists and has been proven safe for the environment. When and where can I watch this? This is scheduled for 9 a.m. on Saturday, March 12th, and can be viewed from the east side of the bridge at Columbus Drive or Upper and Lower Wacker Drive between East Columbus and Lakeshore Drive. So next Patrick's Day, go and watch the true magic reveal itself. Irish contribution to Chicago. In 1837, the first Irish community appeared in Chicago, and the majority of the Irish worked on the Illinois and Michigan Canal. Within 7 years, the Irish comprised 10% of the city's 7,580 residents. In the 1840s, many Irish came to the United States and ended up in Chicago to escape the Great Potato Famine in Ireland. By 1860, many Irish lived in Chicago. Even though the percentage of Irish declined by the 1890s, it didn't diminish their influence. One advantage the Irish had was that by the 1890s, about 95% of the Irish entering the United States were literate. The Irish fought to receive decent-paying jobs and to overcome nativists who had already begun rumors about them. The Irish also worked for the good of the Chicago public. By 1900, one of the greatest examples was that the Irish had 6 times as many men on the city's police force as the next largest ethnic group. In politics, the Irish were actively involved by the 1850s and continued their involvement through 1900 and after. Usually, the Irish strongly supported the Democratic Party. They mostly voted for Irish Democratic candidates and soon directed Chicago's Democratic Party. In turn, these immigrants contributed to the American culture and Chicago culture in many ways. They became political and religious leaders. They used their drive and charm and their way with words to achieve a special success in journalism, entertainment, and sports. Popular perceptions of the fierce Irish temper introduced such terms as paddywagon, Donnybrook, and fighting Irish to the American language. Among the early immigrants to the U.S., the Irish are now assimilated in all aspects of this nation, but they still retain pride and identity in their Irish heritage. The Irish helped build the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869, which connected the east and west coasts of America. In our Civil War, the Irish also joined the Union Army. Whole brigades were made of Irish recruits, and they helped win the war for the Union. Last but not least, the Irish gave us the great St. Patrick's Day celebration. In general, the Irish population comprises of a large percentage of the modern American population because of the long history that this particular nationality has had with immigrating and descending from ancestors when the U.S. had broken from English rule. And these are some of the reasons why we value Irish immigrants so much, and their contributions have been a great help to Chicago. The history of the Chicago River is one of the most important features of Chicago history. An interesting fact about the river is that its flow was permanently reversed in 1900. Thereafter, the reversal prevented the yearly deaths of thousands of Chicago residents from waterborne diseases such as typhoid and cholera. Had it not been so, the city of Chicago
Chicago might well not exist today. The Chicago River is shallow and slow-moving, but had much potential because of its location and what it provided the settlers. Quote, its greatest value to the native tribes and early settlers was the key to a system of water routes that connects the waters of the mid-continent to the open waters of the Great Lakes, end quote, in one historian's words. The river and its tributaries also gave settlers drink, food, and a safe harbor. As any river would, the Chicago River attracted and influenced human population. Chicago developed and grew to become a great city. The Chicago River was used to dump sewage, factory, and other waste. This badly polluted the river. The river was connected to Lake Michigan, the source of water for Chicago residents. When the Chicago River watershed became too big because of rainstorms, the river overflowed into the lake. Drinking water became polluted and disease spread rapidly. In some years, waterborne diseases killed more than 5% of the population. In 1822, Congress authorized construction of the Illinois and Michigan Canal. Construction began in 1836. By 1837, however, a national economic depression occurred and Illinois was bankrupted. By 1841, it was impossible to continue construction and construction was stopped for 4 years. Construction was completed in 1848 and the canal was open again. The I&M Canal allowed Chicago to gain a competitive advantage over St. Louis, but the canal did not end sanitation problems. A plan was devised to make a deep cut that would allow the canal to draw its flow directly from Lake Michigan and to reverse the river's flow. These improvements caused wildlife to return to the river. This includes more than 50 species of fish, plant life from wetlands, prairies, and forests, large mammals such as coyote and waterbirds. The water, however, is not yet clean enough for swimming. The fish caught are not safe enough to eat, but now people are able to fish in the river. As one historian has written, Chicago owes its existence to the Chicago River, and the river owes its present form to Chicago. The Chicago River today is definitely very different from what it was when explorers first rode through it. This sluggish and shallow river was turned into a sewer by man and then made into a large system of channels and canals to save the city. In 1900, the direction of the river's flow was reversed, an amazing feat that seemed impossible at the time. The reversal helped enable Chicago to become a great city. The Chicago River is truly a unique and special river.